doing? Anthony Ferraro here of Create Sci-Fi. Today I want to jump back into filmmaking, more specifically low budget, micro budget filmmaking, guerrilla filmmaking, and of course for me on this channel it's usually sci-fi, fantasy-based. But when I do my how to make film tutorials, its principles are universal, right? So although I personally tend to focus on science fiction and fantasy, even if you're doing a drama or a comedy, the principles that I go over are still universal. But you know, that brings up a point though, but for me, it's usually science fiction because that's what drives me, right? So when I have a science fiction idea, that compels me to move forward because, especially on a low budget, micro budget, zero budget, it's hard. It's a lot of work. So it's not whimsical at all. You have to be fully committed. And a lot of people are, which is exciting. So I get asked a lot. And over the course of the years on this channel, I've made videos, you know, how to do a script, how to do your first short script with free writing or editing, how to set up a drive for an editor so that they'll take on your project on a low budget, props, costumes, of course, and social media, and the big one, crowdfunding, right? So, because I still get asked these questions a lot, I decided that I'm going to do sort of a recap video here, and I'm just going to list everything that's available and everything that I touch on, and now I have it more organized. It's in a playlist. I'll briefly go over everything here, and then you know, you can pick and choose what you need help with, right? Maybe you're a DP, but the crowdfunding is overwhelming, so you can go check that out. Maybe you're not able to crowdfund, but you want to realize your idea. I have tutorials on filming with the camera phone and things like that. So let's just dive right into it. So the first thing before you get started, you got to have a script, right? So in my DIY script writing tutorial, basically I just go over the free writing process, right? How to just get that first short film idea out. This is not a how to be a script writer in the world. This is how to just get that idea out there and get started. So the next thing I like to do is concept art, especially in sci-fi, fantasy, even horror. The concept art is important because you have these ideas that when you're trying to pitch the idea to people to help with your project, you know, it's on the planet Xenon. We got the orcers, and it's like, okay, that could be a billion things, but if you have a picture of the orcers, they're like, oh, okay, everybody's on the same page. So I find the concept art to be very useful. Usually I do characters, and if there's main prop pieces or a ship or something. And if it's not science fiction or fantasy, this could be more of a Photoshop type thing where you're grabbing images that represent locations and time periods. All right, so with the casting call, I do this right away because usually you're going to end up crowdfunding and team building. So to get your principal cast, at least, you know, whoever your main character is and secondary character usually, and I get them on board to be part of the team. If you are going to go the route of crowdfunding, it's a huge help because then you have a bigger pool of people to draw friends from, right? Because that's really what sells the crowdfunding is the friends and family. So here I just basically go over how to write a casting, ways you can go about holding a casting. Just basic stuff, but very useful, I think. And then while we're talking about casting, I also did a video where I go over how you can reach out to a celebrity. Usually in a low budget, no budget situation, it's a minor celebrity, but you know, they are accessible. I mean, if you have a project that you're really passionate about and it's well done and it's something that's in their wheelhouse, it's worth reaching out. And in this video, I go over how to go about it. It's a pretty basic process. IMDb Pro is key in this, and it's certainly worth looking into. All right, so if you are going to go the zero budget, low budget, micro budget route, It's totally doable, but there's some hard realities involved in that. In this video, I go over how you can actually go about doing this. It's really about building a team, putting together a band, as I say. And have realistic expectations. And you know, this is a great way to get started, and I think this video is helpful. So when you're getting creative in your pre-production and production, even post-production, I have a great collaborator that I work with a lot, Eric Michael Kochmer, and he's produced a lot of low-budget pictures, and he's very resourceful and very knowledgeable. So in this video, I interview him and pick his brain for the benefit of us all. Crowdfunding, this is a big one. I get asked this a lot. I get asked this so much. In fact, I just made this video that details step by step how to crowdfund. And basically, if you were a personal friend of mine, or if you knew a friend and they put you in touch with me, this is exactly what I would tell you. And again, I go through this step by step. You know, it's definitely something to look into. It's a lot of work, and usually you realize once you go down the rabbit hole that nobody's going to help you. The cavalry is not coming. It's something you really need to do yourself. But again, if you're passionate about your project, you'll make it happen, and I'm going to help you out with that in this video. Okay, social media marketing. That sounds lovely. And honestly, that's the term I use when I'm putting up a video on a search engine, right? Social media marketing. But we're just talking about social media. So it's so important to be doing social media right away. It's such a useful tool, especially if you're going to be doing crowdfunding or if you're going to be self-releasing on a streaming platform. You don't want to do everything behind closed doors and then just come out one day and be like, oh, here's my project. Nobody will watch it. They'll be like, what? But if you're on your personal social media, or you set up like a Twitter and you start saying, hey, working on this project, a little picture of a production meeting, or shooting today, picture, hey, we just casted such and such, a picture of them, and just keep telling the story, because it's a long process to make a film, but it's very useful, and I go over that in more detail in the video. Rehearsal, right? So everything's happening, you got your money or you don't have your money, and you have a plan, you got your cast. On low budget, no budget, guerrilla filmmaking, it's so important to rehearse. So many people skip the rehearsal process, which makes no sense to me, right? So spend at least one day with each actor, and then at least one day sort of rehearsing the blocking that you're going to do. And I can't stress how valuable that is when you have a limited budget and a limited amount of time. And I go over that in this video. Props and costumes, that's what I really love. So in this video, I go over how to make some basic props and how to source them inexpensively. And I also touch on costumes. Here's a very specific example in this video, but also you'll find tons of those on my channel. And then next, you know, costumes. Again, sci-fi fantasy, very important, but even if you're doing just a contemporary piece, you want to dress people to help tell the story, right? So in this video, I do a little deeper dive in my costume making process. And again, I believe the principles are universal, so I think you can get a lot out of this video. Alien makeup, right? So my first picture, I had this guy in a crazy, like, humanoid suit, and I just couldn't afford it, right? So then you got to figure out creative ways. You don't want to put somebody in a rubber mask. If you get creative, you know, you can do things on a budget. The key is just to keep it simple, right? Don't try to overdo what you can't afford. That always looks bad. And again, if you're doing contemporary, makeup is a consideration as well, and I think this video is useful in sort of wrapping your head around that. Now, you know, getting ready to shoot, I want to do my storyboards. Storyboards are so important. In my case, I have artists that I work with, but you can also do it yourself, Photoshop, stick figures even, but storyboards are really important. And one thing I found out personally is that the storyboard also is almost a chance to sort of rehearse your directing, right? So everything is such an economy of time and money that you really, really want to be prepared. And that storyboard, you're going to create a roadmap, and I go over that in more detail in this video. Then next we're going to break down the script and we're going to make a shot list. I think there's a theme evolving here, right? Organized, organized, organized. Do the work. Dot the I's, cross the T's. It's so important. So you want to go through your script, break out all your shots, make a list, check it twice, right? And this is just what's going to really drive you through the day. There's going to be so much chaos, especially when you're making things with limited resources, that you just need to have that checklist. Did we get this? Did we get this? And then sort of inevitably, if you run out of time, you're going to have to start prioritizing. And if you have that list in front of you, it's very useful. It just helps to keep the machine going. So here we touch on that. Smartphone filmmaking, right? So if you do end up going the no budget route and you have a story that you're passionate about telling, the camera phone is a very good option. With just a few apps and different rigs for holding it, you know, all for around $100. And then also in this video, I break down the rig and what I use when filming with the phone, and this could be very useful to you. And then next, as sort of a practical example, I have a behind the scenes video. All the videos that I share in this series so far were ramping up to a short film that I made called AERANGER. In this video, I just give you a little peek behind the scenes of that process, and a lot of these things we're talking about you get to see in action. So I just thought this could be useful. All right, editing is a big one, right? So a lot of people make the mistake on low and no budget with editing, where they just find somebody to help them and they just dump everything on the person, and they're expecting them to do more than what is actually the job of editing. So editing is very time consuming. Everybody else, you know, DPs and sound people, you know, you can work on a budget with them, but they're really just showing up for one day. The editor is going to be invested in this in a long time. So it's hard to get the right person, especially when you're on a budget. So in this video, I go over how you can set up the project for them. And this is very doable, even if you're not an editor. I go through this step by step. Sound design. Sound design is huge. That's the one thing that I really don't go into detail on in this channel. I just have never learned it, I would say, in a presentational way. I do it with online videos and corporate type things, and that's fine. But as far as presenting a film for entertainment, I still rely on somebody that has more experience than me. So in this case, we talked to Martin. He's the sound designer that I use most of the time. And like with our producer friend Eric, we sort of pick his brain. So right here, I share that with you. Can't stress that enough. Do not overlook doing a proper sound design. Okay, movie poster design. This has evolved a lot for me. Back in the day, that was sort of the last thing you would do. If you did that first, you're like putting the cart in front of the horse. But now, again, with social media, that key art is important, and you want to establish your poster image right away because you want to be seeding that constantly, and it's key art, right? So people see that image and they associate it with your project. And I go over some basics in Photoshop, how you can do your thumbnail and your poster. You kind of want to have a poster that you can do traditional poster size and then, you know, landscape thumbnail size. And last in this series is the movie trailer, and for me it's more of a teaser. I go over my process of this, and I show you an example of my teaser for AERANGER. Again, AERANGER. What I try to get across in this is that a lot of people get bogged down and want to try to tell the story with the trailer, and that's just bad. You're making more of a teaser, and I find that to be very effective, and I go through my process of creating those and thinking about them. So that's my list so far. Hopefully there's something in there that can help you. Maybe you're good on one thing but not another, so you can pick and choose. And please share this with people that you know that are getting started or are stuck in certain aspects. Having compiled this list, I realize there's a few more videos I want to add to it, so I know I want to do sort of a directing 101, just a basic bare bones directing overview. I want to do, because everything now seems to be streaming, I want to do a basic how to prepare your media to put on a streaming platform. And I think I should also do a really basic 101 editing. I feel everybody should be able to do a rough cut, right? A fine cut, once you have more experience or work with somebody with experience. But as far as taking all your rough media, just extracting the scenes that you like, even if it's, you know, not the fine cuts within, we're looking here, the inserts, but just to tell the story, an in point, an out point, put it in a timeline, tell your story. Everybody should be able to make a rough cut, and I'm gonna go over that with you. All right. Well, I hope that you found this video, this list useful. Please, in the comments below, if you'd like to see something that I haven't covered, please mention that, and I'd be happy to accommodate you. Well, as always, please like this video, subscribe, share, sign up for the email newsletter, leave a comment. Like I said, I love to read the comments, and we'll just keep making films, right? Money or no money. And remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi and all your other filmmaking needs too.